Hello everyone and welcome. It's Shanna, so glad you're here. Now I'm working on my craft roulette card, and I mean I was down to the wire on this one. I didn't think I was even going to submit one. I had thought I was just too tired and I didn't want to do it. And then at the final hour I decided to go ahead and bring it together. So what you're looking at here is my faux envelope portion of the parameters. And I've basically taken a Hammermill 8.5 by 11, and I left the 11 and cut it to 5.5. So I had a 5.5 by 11, and then I turned it and I scored at 4 inches, and then I scored at 4.25, and then that made the 2 flaps that I have that are hanging over. Now I'm going to bring in a Spellbinders die here that's a little scallop edge, and I'm going to take and tape it down. And this is going to create a little fancy scallop edge on my envelope flap. And so I'll just take it over, run it through my die cutting machine, and then we'll be back with it. Now, I couldn't fit it in the appropriate way because of the width of that die. So I had to turn it sideways, and I had to fold the cardstock back on top of the die. And so I've got a little impression in the die, or in the cardstock, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to cover it up. So I'm bringing in this Tropical Hippos pattern paper and ephemera set from Not Too Shabby Company. And I'm going to scallop this paper as well, because this is going to line the top of my envelope flap that I created on my card base. And I'm going to just line it up, and I'm positioning it to where I like what the pattern is above there, because we've got like rows of a scene there. We've got the Tiki Shack, and we've got the hippo there in the center. And so I think this will position well for my card base, and we'll have a nice little scene on the opening flap. And then that other piece of paper is going to be our bottom flap. Now, because of the way this scallop was, I'm going to have 1/8 of an inch on each side of the pattern, so that I can have a little edge, and that'll make it work so that I can line these scallops up appropriately. And it works out pretty well because the hippo is fairly centered on the card base. Now here I'm measuring it because I know my panel that I just die cut is too large with the hippos, and I'm going to need to trim it down. So I'm just taking my time and trying to get a measurement so that I know about what I need. And I will actually make multiple cuts on this to get it exactly where I want it, but because I have to position it because I want to line those scallops up. So I'm just going to bring in my Spellbinders paper trimmer, and I'm going to start trimming away on it. And first I've got it backwards. I wouldn't want to trim it this way unless I wanted to cut my scallops off and make them smaller. So I'm going to flip it around, and I'm going to kind of line it up with the measurement that I had there, and see how that works. And I think the top measurement works, but the side one I have to kind of finagle a little bit. So that's going to work. We're going to have a little edge on there, and I'm going to have a little edge on both sides. So I'm going to have to trim off this right side of this so that we'll have kind of a matching edge. And the funny thing about it is I didn't even, for the pattern paper on the bottom panel, I didn't make 1/4 of an inch around it, but I think it turns out fine. It just kind of makes that flap stick out more. Now here I'm just eyeballing it. I could have been smart, used a pencil, made a little tick mark there where I needed to cut it. But I'll eyeball it, cut it, eyeball it, cut it, and eventually we'll get it where we want it to be. So I am taking my sweet time looking at it. And I didn't actually speed this video up. I think I got this made in just a little over 14 minutes because it was late and I was trying to hurry. I did cut some segments out where I just kind of sat and stared for a while and tried to think of what I was going to do. Plus I was pretty tired. So I'm lining this up and looking to see where I want to cut it. And I'm going to take a little cut off the side. I'm going to line it up again. And I feel like I need to make another cut on it. Or actually, I guess that was the second cut. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. So I'm just going to use my magnet and hold my card base down and just get this panel lined up and just see if I like it. And as I'm doing this, I realize I don't like that stark white up next to that creamy background of the pattern paper. So I'm going to bring in my magnets, hold it down. I'm thinking, I know I have some Gina K masking magic somewhere. And I'm trying to think, where is it? I don't know. And so instead of looking, I was in a hurry. I went ahead and just kind of made a makeshift mask for this so that I could do some ink blending on it. And I'm still thinking, you know, what am I going to do? And I'm looking around for some scrap. And we all know I have plenty of scrap. And so I just took this long strip here and lined it up with the score mark for my fold. And I've got a little die and a couple of pins attached to that magnet. And I'm just going to bring in some ink and an ink blending brush and do some blending on this. I decided to go with Distressed Oxide Shabby Shutters because I thought that matched the pattern paper very nice. And I'm just going to grab my green ink blending brush, which has pine needles on it. So right now I'm scrubbing it, trying to get the pine needles off so that I'll get a light inking from the Shabby Shutters. And so that's what I'm going to do. And I'll just ink this whole little flap up. Now, it's not necessary. I could have just done around the edges because we know this pattern paper is going to cover it up. But I wind up just inking the whole thing and kind of blending it together. And I think I get a good blend by doing this. I don't feel like I wasted too much because it wasn't a full panel or anything. And so I've got my Shabby Shutters on there, and I like the color, and it's going to look really good with this pattern paper. Now I'm just going to put my ink up, and I cleaned off my desk, and I edited that out of there so you didn't have to watch me do that. And now I think we're ready to begin laying our pattern paper down. And so I'm going to get my top flat piece and we'll just get it laid down on there. And I think it looks really pretty with that green. I'm glad I decided to ink blend. And on the back of this paper, their paper is great. You have double-sided and, you know, all sides are great. But these are like little candy sticks, like those little twirly ones. I don't know if they're like taffy, kind of twisted around a stick. And you've got a bunch of cute, fun colors in that. And that is what was on the back side of that. Now I'm just going to get this lined up and positioned how I want it. And I was happy that the hippo was pretty much in the center there. And then I've got my two drink shacks on there. And now I'm ready to adorn the bottom of the flap of the card. Now off camera I did use the scraps from this floral pattern here and adorned the inside flaps of my card as well. But I'm just going to cut this down to the size that I need for that bottom flap, and we'll just get it laid down on there. And like I said, I didn't even think about leaving 1/8 of an inch all the way around and blending that panel. I just used the full panel. But I think it turns out okay. And I guess not everything has to be exactly the same. And you can see I ran it through my die cutting machine, and when I flipped it over, because I had to do that, I got some gunk on that white card base. So I guess that was the reason why I didn't cut it down, was because I knew I needed to cover that up. I had forgotten about that. And so I'm going to get that laid down on there nice and neat. I think I wind up having to trim some off of the inside edge there because it's a little bit long. And so now we've got it. And I mean, this could be finished right here. I mean, it's super cute. But we need that string element. Now, I've met all my other elements because I did my faux envelope and I folded something over something, which was part of it too. And then I have my berry collars. And the only thing left that I need is the string. And I'll fool around with this string for a good while and before I get it fixed. Now, I got to thinking, I've got this ephemera pack and I want to use it. And so I'll kind of lay some of that out, try some different things, and we'll wind up layering up a bigger pink hippo on top of this. And I think it'll look cute because it'll hang off our little faux envelope flap. So I sort through all of it, and I wind up deciding that I'm going to go with a little hippo that is carrying a drink. And I'm just looking it over, and I'm still thinking about what I'm doing. And then I'll just start to play around with the ephemera and sort through it. And I've got this little hippo with the drink on there, and I'm thinking about maybe making a bigger one of the image that's already on there, but then I decide that I'm going to go with this hippo that's holding the little coconut drink, and we'll get it laid down on there, and that will be the focal image on our card. And I'm still kind of playing around. I was thinking about maybe finding, I knew there was a little coconut drink there, and I thought maybe I could add it, but then I just decide against it and just decide that I'm going to add the hippo, and she's going to be the focal point on the card. And so we'll just get all this ephemera put away, and we'll get her laid down on there, and that'll be our image. So I'm going to have her hanging off the flap a little bit there. And then I'm going to bring in my glue. I thought about popping her up for a minute, but I'm like, no, I'm just going to keep it flat, and I'm just going to get her laid down on there. And I'll just glue the top half of her body and get her laid on there, and then she'll just kind of open with the flap of the card. And I am pondering and pondering how I want to do this. So we'll glue it up, get it laid down. And I think it looks cute. Now I'm positioning it just precisely so that it covers up the hippo that's underneath there, and trying to, you know, kind of maintain the center area, but yet cover up what's on that pattern paper. And I think it looks cute. Now I've met all of the elements except for the string element, and I'm going to fool around with this string. And I'm thinking about using it to kind of tie it closed, going kind of across her body and then tying it closed. And I can't get it tight. I don't like how it looks. Then I'll wind up flipping it and trying to tie it again, and that won't work either. And ultimately I will take it off. I mean, I suppose that looked cute like that. I didn't like how it gapped, and I couldn't get it tight enough. So I'm going to try the other direction, thinking maybe those scallops will help it stay closed better. And I'll just flip it around. I was actually trying to figure out, is there a way I could do it from the inside? I thought about maybe punching some holes and doing it that way, but I didn't want to do that. So I'm going to tie it here again, and I'm not going to like this either. And then I'll ultimately take it off. And I actually thought I was videoing it, but I lost footage. And I'll just make a little bow out of the twine, or the string, I guess I should call it, since it's the string element that we're needing to meet. And I'll just attach it to her hip, kind of like a little sash on her little outfit there. And that's what I wind up doing. But like I said, I lose the footage. So in the picture here at the end, you'll be able to see the sash on her little hip, and that will finish off our card. So I appreciate you watching, and I hope you have a great day. Take care.